Hello and welcome to the Let That Shift Go podcast. I'm Noel.
And I'm Lena.
And this is where we talk about the good, the bad, and all the shift in between.
We'll just talk mad shift.
Let's get into it.
So we're going to talk about something radical today. And it's not ayahuasca or open relationships. We're talking about rest. I know, terrifying.
But first, let's get into these skin deep cards.
All right, let's do it. You go first.
All right, I'll go first. What's a reoccurring thought of yours that you imagine everyone else must have?
I'm not doing enough.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not doing enough. I should have done that better. You know, I think that's probably a recurring thought that a lot of people have.
I think that's a pretty common one. That's a good one.
No shocker there. That was kind of easy.
So what's your question?
Okay, my question is, if I was a texture, what would I be and why?
If you were a texture, I think of like 70s, like super long carpet, like really long, you know what I mean? And
like a shag
like
rug?
a shag rug, because there's layers to you. You know what I mean? It's hard to know what's up there. You know, there's plenty of beauty on the surface, but man, there's layers to you. So I think,
there's some like dirt underneath.
yeah, if you shook it, you never know. I mean, we haven't even talked about the padding underneath yet, but just the surface is the texture of you. I would say is a
Maybe
shag
animals
carpet.
living in there.
Get lost.
It might smell bad too, but all right, I can go with that. I like it. Okay. That was from our amusing deck.
Yeah. So today, we're talking about overstimulation.
Yeah. Why does rest feel hard? And why does doing nothing feel like failure? And I think that we're all pretty low-key addicted to being overstimulated all the time.
Yeah. I think like Stillness is like, you know, my version of a horror movie, you know, quiet. That's
It's
why I gotta
scarier.
Yeah, it's scary. I got to have music or something going in the background all the time.
Yeah. I don't think, you know what? I think a lot of people experience this, and I don't know that we actually realize that we do it. You know, I think that we're so addicted to being busy or to being productive, like that. It just, rest doesn't feel neutral. It just brings up what we've been avoiding oftentimes, like being still sometimes can just bring up, what are my thoughts? What's going on here? So that's one thing. It's like resting can sometimes feel scary just because what it brings up. You know, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to deal with maybe the feelings I'm wanting to avoid. And for many people, just sitting still can feel like vulnerability. I think part of it too is like where our inherited beliefs around being productive. And that's one thing I've noticed too with a lot of people is if you were praised for being so active, right? Like think about like even a lot of kids today, they have like 3 or 4 different activities going on.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to get to soccer and then we got to get to this, we got to get to that.
Tutoring and education and all of those things on top of.
Yeah. Like where do we even learn, even as children, that it's okay to just sit and just be, you know, like there's always got to be like, there's this thing that you're accomplishing or you're doing. Otherwise that, you know, are you even valuable, you know, or oftentimes was did you get attention for being so productive, you know, or did rest feel like something that had to be earned and not just deserved? So I know for many of us that was not the case. And there was this term that was brought up when we were researching this, and it was capitalism and trauma pairing. And both of us were like, what the hell?
Yeah, what is that?
What is that? And it was like, oh my gosh, you're right, because capitalism is like about productivity. You know? So it's like we're
built into our entire life. Yeah. And we're raised with capitalism is you got time to lean, you got time to clean, you got to be, you got to move, you got to be making money. If you're sitting still, you're being lazy.
Yep.
You know,
it's kind of ingrained into you. And so like living in a culture that just runs on caffeine, cortisol, capitalism, And productivity, like almost is this new morality, right? And like you said, like if you're not hustling, are you even trying? And even when we try to rest, like quote unquote, we try to rest, we feel guilty. It's like, well, I could be doing that because rest isn't actually honored. It's like pathologized. Like, are you depressed? Why aren't you doing this? And we don't even need someone on the outside, questioning us. It's like this voice sometimes just lives rent free right in your head.
Yeah. Capitalism said, grind till you die. And my nervous system said, bet. Now I'm twitching in my sleep, calling it ambition.
At least you're doing something while you're sleeping.
Yeah. I mean, but it just, even in my sleep, I dream about being productive sometimes. That's the curse.
Yeah. Or what you didn't do, what you should have done. Even rest doesn't feel like rest. I know for me, like there's been times when, since I went into business for myself, like anytime I would sit down, it was like, no, you could be doing this. And for a while I was like I would just make myself super busy all the time. And it made me feel like I'm okay. Like I'm really busy. And then I realized, man, I'm exhausted. And then I thought, well, who's making me busy? Like, it's just me. I'm the one setting my schedule. I'm the one doing this thing, and realized like, man, if I'm not available for everything and keeping myself busy, I suddenly feel unworthy. Like there's something, I'm missing the mark somehow. And that was an old story. I didn't realize that really is an old story that just lived, on repeat in my head. And so even making myself sit down and go, no, you are going to sit down and you're not actually going to do anything. You're not going to post anything. You're not going to create anything. You're not going to work on the website. You're not going to, and you're not going to fold laundry just so you can watch something on television. Like we don't have to do that. You can just sit down and that's something nourishing for you to do. But it went against everything in me.
Yeah, because sometimes we justify doing things like that. It's like, cleaning the house or cutting the grass is something that brings me calm, but that's not actually resting.
No. It is a way maybe for your nervous system to rest because it's like you've earned the rest. And that might me feel more comfortable is that you earned the rest.
Yeah, and that's the key, is not to feel like you've had to earn that rest.
Yeah. I think that's where a lot of us get uncomfortable when like there's an availability of time to rest, or we feel like we have to go on vacation because like, well, now I'm vacationing. So my job is to rest. You have to actually leave your environment and actually be away from it in order to be able to allow yourself to sit down. And thinking about how you as you grew up like that, I was so guilty of this is, when it was time to clean, everybody better clean. Like if I'm cleaning and you're laying on couch, no, you're gonna be made to feel bad. And I hate that I did that now, but I felt like, well, that's just how it is. Like if mom's cleaning, everybody should be cleaning. And if you're laying down resting, you're going to feel bad. I'm going to make sure that you feel bad. And, and so I feel like it like wires your brain. Like, I'm not allowed to just lay down and rest,
Well, it's like conditional love.
Yeah.
To ourselves even. Like we in order to get rest, we sometimes make challenges. Well, I'm not going to rest until I do A, B, C, and D. Yeah,
you have to earn it. There's nobody keeping score except you, in most cases. It's not like your mom's coming through the door. Like, why didn't you do this so that you could, eat lunch, whatever. But it's like the body confuses stillness with vulnerability. So when we're trying to chill out, our trauma brain starts scanning. And it's like, who's going to be mad? What ball am I dropping? Am I lazy now? Like if I'm sitting down, I must be lazy. And it's like, I don't know, it's so insidious. And I think that it's something that a lot of us actually feel, but we don't recognize it until somebody says, hey, like, does rest feel kind of risky to you?
I know my nervous system says, here's the word rest and goes, you mean like die? Bro, chill. I'm just trying to take a nap, Yeah. I mean, I can't even give myself the space to take a nap sometimes.
Yeah, I think we've, many of us have inherited beliefs. Like if I'm not producing, I'm not valuable. And like we said, that rest is earned. It's not deserved. You have to earn it. Or like there's this really systemic glorification of burnout. Like, look how hard they work. They're willing to give it all. And it's like, man, that's how you know you're valuable. If you're glorified for that, then how else do you, kind of get the satisfaction of that you're worthy?
Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes we idolize people who are like, oh, that person would give you the shirt off their back. But
Yeah, we've
if
talked
that
about
person
that,
is doing that, then that's, a codependency. And then what are they giving up for themselves?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm just hearing when we talk about this.
Well, what do you think about like just even the term over functioning? It's like that can become like a personal pattern of just over functioning. So somebody who is stuck in that mode is like, why don't you go ahead and just sit down? What? And then what? Like, then am I still valuable? Am I still worthy? And it can start to just sort of like hijack your nervous system, because our bodies are stuck in fight or flight loops often. Just thinking about your everyday, tasks or how you're going about your day, like we're constantly barraged with information from our phones. Even like the process of healing starts to become another thing for you to do. Why are you not working on your healing?
Yeah.
Like, are you just reading a novel? Like for me, like when I remember when I went on vacation and I read a novel about an octopus. By the way, it's called Remarkably Bright Creatures. I highly recommend it. But I realized like, oh my gosh, this is so indulgent. It felt very self-indulgent because I wasn't reading a book about self-help or how to grow emotionally or how to, and I'm like, oh, this is like a guilty pleasure to read a book, that really just made me so happy. And I remember having like this questioning of myself, like, is this okay that I literally just sat here for 4 hours and read this book? It felt like I was going to get in trouble. Or like, what if I needed to learn something because I needed that to help myself on my healing path or help someone else? And it was like, wow, that's really interesting that even just to read a book for sheer pleasure, not to improve myself on my healing journey felt like an indulgence, instead of like a necessity for my brain to just check out, not have to constantly be fixing something.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel though, like when I'm super stressed out and I feel like I have a lot of tasks to do, I almost feel as if my nervous system intentionally makes me feel tired and like I almost need to fall asleep and take a nap. Sometimes it's almost like the opposite of what we're talking about, So I don't know where the balance is, sometimes with,
you feel like if there's too many things to do, you just feel this overwhelm and then shut down.
Yeah. And it feels like my nervous system's like overwhelmed. So it's like, you know what? You just need to take a nap. And so that brings up this guilt of like, I've got so much to do though. It wouldn't be good if I did that. So many people are counting on me. And it's like, but then this is my nervous system telling me
like we need rest.
Yeah, rest. So I think my nervous system is trying to protect me, but I tell myself not to.
Yeah. Well, because we override it based on our patterns, and based on like that voice in your head that's like, that would be, you're lazy, or you're going to fail.
Well, some of it feels like an avoidance, like I'm avoiding dealing with it. But really, when do
you have a story about it being avoidant by resting? Like, does that equal to you? That's being avoidant because resting is like, oh, I'm checking out.
No, I think in my just thinking about how I, reacted growing up, I think I didn't really rest to avoid things. I would keep myself busy to avoid things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
this rest is different.
Yeah. Like, not being busy then is, well, then I would have to not avoid, like I would have to feel things. I would have to face things. So it's probably easier to just be busy than to just sit and feel or, allow yourself to just not be overstimulated or overfunctioning in the moment.
Well, yeah, like we talked about earlier, like that stillness is like, scarier than a horror movie, right?
Yeah.
So like sometimes I avoid that stillness because I'm not ready to deal. And so, using my tools or trying to sit and find the time for stillness is important, but I don't always give myself that.
Yeah. It even sounds like trying to find a place for stillness is like still trying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's still like a doing thing. Like only it's about my healing.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's just a part of my day.
Like I've done a cold plunge. I did therapy. I did inner child journaling.
And a moon ceremony.
And now I'm still anxious. It's like,
I know. What do we do now?
I haven't done enough. Yeah.
Yeah, because eventually all of this work that we do, we have to sit still with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, I think it's about like redefining what rest is, and that rest doesn't, equal laziness. It can just be repair.
Yeah. Rest isn't resistance.
Yeah.
Or rest is resistance.
Well, true rest is not performative either. Like you're not trying to be anything. You're not trying to do anything. Like you're just allowing yourself to repair. Like what if that was important for whatever it is that you when you're in accomplish mode and you're in that space where you're ready to do something, that you're actually giving yourself, your body, the nutrition it needs in order to do those things. And maybe it doesn't have to be, a spa day. It can just be saying no. It can be just silence in a conversation. It can be just watching clouds go by. And I'll tell you, even trying to move into that space where that's probably new to you will feel really uncomfortable.
Well, that uncomfortable place is where the growth is.
It can feel like a very vulnerable place.
Yeah, silence feels like vulnerability.
Oh yeah, you get to hear all the, the thoughts, the projections that are coming up that maybe you didn't hear because you were just keeping yourself so busy, so distracted. Maybe there's pain that you're trying to avoid.
Well, a lot of times, my rest, is in these last couple of years since the advent of like social media, is like it's the death scroll. Like that's what I consider resting now. Is like,
wow,
scrolling and getting these dopamine hits from seeing what's going on, and so that is what That's like your downtime. My kids also, it's like, oh, Dad, I just need to rest a little bit. And so they'll just be scrolling. And it's like, well, that's your rest?
Yeah.
It's not really rest.
It's not. It's not.
It's avoiding, right? So.
Yeah, you're also getting stimulation. So I think I think that is something to look at. Like, I think probably you're not the only person for sure. That's like, well, that's when I sit down and I just scroll. It's like, well, and according to my phone, I'm getting like 8 hours of that a day.
Yeah, that's a real thing. My phone sends me reminders like, oh, you've had 5 hours of screen time on this. And I'm just like, oh, man.
Yeah.
Did I really put that much energy into that?
How much of my energy did I peel off and use for what? Some dopamine hits. Sometimes you may get a few laughs, sure, but like, is your nervous system actually resting? Is your body actually resting? Is your brain actually just repairing? And I think that's a question we need to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
Are we getting used to doom scrolling being a form of rest?
Yeah, if you ask yourselves, like, that would be a question for the listeners. Is like, what do you see as a form of rest? And then really look at that. Because if it's like mine where I'm scrolling, your mind isn't really resting.
No, it's stimulation. And it's your attention. Like that is one of your, right now, especially your attention is one of your most valuable currencies. And what would it look like not to be giving it away to things that probably aren't going to give back to you?
Well, what things do you see? What do you imagine things that we're doing in the rest? Like what would be productive in that rest? Is it like the integration of your day, like thinking about,
what
how people affected you and how you move through that and how you process? Like, that's not rest also? I mean,
no, then they're like, I'm healing. I'm meditating. That's also like you're doing something. So I think it's something for me, like the first thing I think of is like reading that book that just felt really joyful.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to like write a paper about it.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to write a post about like
There's no deadline. It was
just like my brain just literally going into like a joy mode of being able to enjoy something just for the sake of enjoying it. So there was no productivity per se that was going to happen for me reading the book. It was just giving myself permission to just read a book and sit there and however long that took.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking about what things I do for myself to give myself joy.
What does that look like for you?
Like mountain biking is one of the things that I really like to do. And that's like joy because it just brings me into a zone and all of those things. So yeah, that's probably one of my top things right now. And work, I when it's resting is not working on things, but I like working on cars and fixing stuff like that and just creating stuff that way or repairing or making something new or whatever, those types of things. They don't really feel like work to me always. I mean, there's times where it's like, oh, I got to change the oil or it's not something fun.
Yeah.
But and sometimes in the same subset of things that I could do, I do find rest in those.
I think it's,
joy, I should say.
One of the things I think to pay attention to is like, if you're doing this thing that you enjoy, is to notice if you start to like sort of gaslight yourself, or you start to be like, you could be like fixing the sink because that needs to be done. And you might run out of time.
And is that an indication of you're doing something that you should be doing and something?
If you start shooting on yourself, like, I may have a problem with just allowing myself space to rest because, maybe I've received a lot of feedback about what my value is based on my ability to perform and produce. And is that how I want it? Is that the pattern I want to be in? Or can I give myself permission to rest? Because I mean, look at, things like this affect your blood pressure, level of anxiety, depression. And I think that these are things that, could be even more important than taking a pill, is to just give yourself permission to sit and be, you know, whether it's to read a book or how about take a nap? Like, how many people actually give themselves permission to take a nap if you're able to, you know? I mean, I feel like when we were kids, it was punishment. And now I would love for someone to be like, Lena, you need to go take a nap right now, you know? Mm. So maybe we can have some more reflection questions for the audience to consider about whether this is something for them to take notice of. And one of those is, you know, I want you to ask yourself is, what belief do I hold about rest that keeps me from allowing it? Like, what is rest defined as to you? And even is rest like something that you think is luxurious? Mm-hmm. Like only some people get that? Mm-hmm. It's something that you have to earn? And then asking, like, when I slow down, what emotions rise up? Mm-hmm.
Naming the emotions.
Mm-hmm. Like allowing them to rise up. Is there a fear of rest or sitting because you're afraid of what emotions might come up? Mm. And let me tell you, like, you can run from your emotions only for so long. It's like trying to, you know, you're gonna push something away, but there's gonna be like deferred payments with interest on it, on those things that you're avoiding.
Yeah,
you know, and you don't have to do it in big bites. Maybe you can, you know, start to just take small steps of allowing a little bit of rest and to see what rises up, and really noticing if one of the reasons why rest is hard for you or stillness is hard for you is because there's an avoidance of what comes up in stillness. Mm. Another one is, who in my life models rest well? Or did anyone? Like, was your mom blasting the music and running around with a vacuum and yelling at everyone to get up off the couch? You know, or there was going to be repercussions. Like, if you know someone in your life that models rest well, what can you learn from them? Mm. And what does rest look like for me? Not aesthetically, but somatically. Like, what does that look like for your body? What does it look like to let your body rest? Like, it's not yoga. It's not necessarily going to yoga or working out. Like, what does it look like just to allow your body to rest. Does that feel uncomfortable? Does that feel scary?
I remember the first time you took me to a yoga class and I did that pranayama breathing and I was like, I felt my nervous system to finally, calm down. And I was like
it took it down
different.
Gears.
Like, how do you do that? So, that was, I think, when I recognized like my nervous system being at rest.
Like there was possibility for something called rest and that you weren't at it or in it.
Yeah. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was even possible.
Weren't familiar with it. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's an important topic. And
when you grow up in a household where you're being yelled at for resting, your nervous system is going to be trained.
Yeah.
That rest is something bad almost.
Yeah. I think if rest makes you feel antsy or uncomfortable or guilty, oftentimes guilty, it's not a sign that you're doing it wrong. It's just a sign that maybe you're finally letting go of like a survival strategy that got you here, but it won't take you where you're going. Like that can only last so long.
All right.
Something to think about.
Does
rest feel risky?
It does. And we encourage you to be curious about rest. Do some writing on these questions that we've put out there.
Yeah.
And let us know. All right. That's been another episode of Let That Shift Go podcast. I'm Noel.
And I'm Lena. Let us know what your questions are, and we'd love to use them on a future episode. Or check us out on Insta at Let That Shift Go, or visit our website, serenitycovetemecula.com.